Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us from today. My name's Sarah and I'm the Program and Event Manager at the Reactor in Sydney. Just a reminder that today is a Teams meeting, so if you can keep your microphones and your cameras off throughout, especially when joining, that would be greatly appreciated. For today's session, I'd like to welcome back Kirsty McGrath. Kirsty is a 3 times award-winning Microsoft MVP, the founder of the Australian Microsoft 365 adoption user group in both Sydney and Melbourne, and the author of the Office 365 infographic, which you'll see behind Kirsty today in her background. Today's session, Kirsty will be discussing ways of making life easier when working on Microsoft Word documents. You'll learn top features today, keyboard and mouse shortcuts for your everyday success. And Kirsty will explain that in further detail coming up. The session will be approximately 60 minutes with about 10 minutes for questions, but I'm sure if you put your questions in the Q&A section throughout, Kirsty and myself will try and answer as many as possible. And there will be a link to the survey at the end of this session, and we will also be posting a version of this to our YouTube channel in the next 24 to 48 hours. So there will be an on-demand version available if there's anything that you missed from today. But for now, without further ado, I'd like to hand the floor over to Kirsty to begin. So Kirsty, over to you and thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So let's get stuck in and have a little bit of a look at Microsoft Word. But as we've stated, before we get started, if you do have any questions, you want to chat with me at any point, feel free to put it in, just click on the little chat icon up the top in Teams. You can type anything in there along the way. Happy to answer them. I'm keeping an eye out on the questions. I'm sure, Sarah, I should say, will also help out there and pass anything on towards the end if there's something I've actually missed that you might have asked. If you need to chat with me, please feel free to raise your hands, or occasionally I might go, do you do that? Raise your hand. So that's where you're going to raise your hand. So we're going to do it there. But as we said, please try to keep yourself on mute right throughout the sessions. Anything that you might type or chat or anything, please be constructive, respectful, helpful, and kind. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which the session is actually hosted and the traditional custodians and lands on where our Australian-based speaker is located. We'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. My name is Kirsty McGrath. As stated, I am the Director and Adoption Consultant for OnPoint Solutions. I run the user groups for Australia. I focus on adoption change management, and I have a history and background in training. I have spent many, many years doing training to a super user, how's that a tongue twister, level right across the Office 365 suite. That includes all PowerPoint, Word, Excel along the way. Please feel free to join us at the adoption user groups if you wish to. We've got coming up some really great information and people. We've got the lists team is coming in to talk. We've got modern commenting, which if you're liking any of that in Word and across Office, then you might want to come along to those sessions. So the product managers will be talking at the user group coming up soon. So I don't even know what I don't know. Well, look, when we start and we're doing any training, and the way that I'm going to be doing this is I'm not actually going to step through a step-by-step on how to do all of this. There's so much content that's actually really valuable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a really kind of a hard and fast, well, what can you do? Where do you even look or find, or is it even possible inside Microsoft Word? Now, I've done it a few times recently, actually. I've had some university students, my cousin in particular, she lost 35 points off her assignment just purely on formatting and referencing and all the different things, table of contents, all that sort of stuff that was in her assignment. Now, she's a HD student and Word, and her skills were letting her down. So, I'll pass this on to her and say, you need to watch because I'm talking about you. And this happens a lot. I actually see it quite regularly. And I've had quite a few that I've helped out recently on proposals and things like that, where the little things sometimes let us down. So I'm going to show you, well, how do I get it and get them to the point where she was so excited because she got a HD, because her content was amazing, but the structure and just the design and the look was really rather poor. We're going to go through things like styles and designs and what's sort of that base to it. And we'll look at some pictures and tables, some of the accessibility features, which are actually really cool and going to be able to help you. Some of the keyboards and mouse shortcuts and where you can find some additional resources. So let's, without further ado, go over into Word. So here we go. We've got Microsoft Word. A few things I'm going to do in terms of getting started. I want my ribbon. There's a lot of features on there, so I'm just doing a double click and I'm opening it out. A double click will actually collapse it down again, and you've got arrows and things like that. So collapsing the ribbon, Control F1. So if it vanishes on you, maybe you've actually accidentally done that as a keyboard shortcut. In Cross Office, you're going to find that there's a lot of keyboard shortcuts for wherever you happen to actually click on. So just hover over it. And if you're not sure what a feature is across the Office suite, you'll soon see it gives you an explanation. And if there's a keyboard shortcut, more often than not, it will give you a keyboard shortcut. It's really worth getting to know those keyboard shortcuts. You've also got what's called your ribbon shortcut. So if I press the Alt key, that's just the ALT, it's next to your space bar. It also gives you the kind of the shortcut way of being able to navigate around the ribbon. So if it didn't have a keyboard shortcut, effectively, if you knew that you went Alt M, for example, and then I go to M, it takes me to my mailings and I want to do envelopes, Alt ME would actually give me effectively a keyboard shortcut to be able to navigate around quite easily. So those are the sorts of things that can really help you to not take your hands off the keyboard, especially if you're a fast typer like me and I'm on a roll. So getting started on a document. Now I've got one that's already created. It's always so much easier that when you have a document and it's a blank document, that you start from the right point. A bit like in PowerPoint, it kind of gives you a template, and it's called your masters in PowerPoint. You've got a similar thing when it comes to Word. If you get that right, everything flows from there. So have you ever wondered, well, where do the things like the styles and the look and feel from the styles actually come from? So in the back end, what you want to do is try and get it to what you want first before you start creating. I've got one I've already created, so I'm going to show you, well, how would I fix it after I've created it? Because a lot of times you've got a document, it's playing up, it's doing all sorts of funky things on you. You're going, I don't know what I've done. Yeah, it's usually a user error, unfortunately. So I'm going to go up, and the very first thing I'm going to look at, hang on, we just went everyone on mute, get to the design slide. Design tab, I should say. So on the design tab, you've got a few things in here to be able to help you and get started. So what does it look like here? One, you've got a look and feel running across in terms of your document formatting. So you could just pick and choose something from the document formatting. You go, oh, I like that look and feel. I might actually choose. This one is just the generic basic style set that comes with Microsoft Office. You want to leave it at that? That's fine. We'll come back and we'll have a look at changing that in a minute. You've also got things like create your own colors, your fonts, for example, or you can choose a theme. If you have a PowerPoint theme inside your organization already, you can just go save that color theme, and then it allows you to be able to just pick and choose the colors that you actually want by having the theme coming through from another presentation or document. Now, I could just pick and choose something from this list. There's some basics. So if I just choose one from the list, that theme comes with it. Its colors, its fonts, okay? So they're all the ones. Now, I don't actually recommend Arial. Arial is one that was used a while ago, and Microsoft stopped using Arial and had gone over to Calibri because the I's and the L's and the ones were all looking very similar. Not great for accessibility, and it was not great in terms of the legal industry because trying to differentiate between, all the numbering that would actually run on a page was causing all sorts of issues. So I don't actually recommend Arial as part of an organization's font, but often we're stuck with what we get given. But if you're creating your own documents and you can, then try not to use it if possible. So it comes with fonts, it comes with colors, it comes with a particular style that might be chosen, or you could choose a particular style. But you'll see a lot of it's not kind of coming into play when I'm choosing it. That's because my styles have not been used in this document. So we got one, what is your theme? Start from there. Then go over into your styles. Now your styles running across the top here is what's going to be here. At the moment, everything throughout this document is normal. When I start to do it myself, so if I go, and choose something like this and I go bold and italics, you'll still see it's normal, and it doesn't help me in terms of using my styles again and again. This becomes really important when you start to do things like table of contents. So let me go back. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go, well, this is a heading, and I know it's a heading, and I want it to apply that theme and that style to come through. So I'm going to go call it the heading. So now I've got my heading, and I'm going to start using these styles. Now the second one, it's bold, it's italics. At the moment, it's just sort of a generic, it's classed as normal. It's not here on the list, but I want it to maybe be on the list. So I could go for style 2 on my heading. I could go right click and update it to match a particular selection. I'm just going to use the one that's there. But I've got lots of them throughout the document. I've got a few that are now bold and in italics. To make it really easy, selection pane. And I'm just going to select text with similar formatting. It'll choose them all. And I go, heading 2. It's doing it right through the whole document for me. Thank you very much, Lee. So here we go. I've now got my heading 2, and here is heading 3. I'll do it again, select all the text with slimmer formatting, and I'm going to go heading 3. It's doing it right through my document. Now, if I really want to see what's going on, some of the things that aren't turned on, that's going to be really important. And this is where I see usually a lot of times things go wrong inside Word because you can't physically see what's happening and what's going on. There are 2 things that I do. Number 1, I come up and I show or hide my paragraph marks and all those formatting symbols. A lot of people go, well, it's messy and I can't read it. Well, it's like, well, you can't see what's going on without it. So if I turn that on, I can then start to go, okay, let's have a look at what we've got. Because here it's normal, there it's normal, there it's normal, we're fine, we're going fine, fine, fine. But when we start to come down, that one is bigger than the others. It's actually a heading 2. Might not seem like it's going to be an issue, but it really will be when we start to put in something like a table of contents. So I'm going to go to the View tab. The next thing that I will turn on is my navigation pane, because if I want this to have a table of contents, I'm going to start seeing that, well, that's what my table of contents is going to look like. Well, that's actually not going to quite look. I've got stuff in here, I've got blanks, because that should just be normal. So should that, there it is there, should also be normal. That should be normal. So if you're seeing all sorts of interesting things coming up in your table of contents, it's usually because of something in your styles is going wrong. Now, down the bottom here, I've actually got a table and I've got information here running down below, and it's kind of going, well, it's classing it as here. It's classing that as headings. Well, I actually don't want that as headings. That should be normal. Get all these things right. That should all be normal as well. That should be fine. That should be fine. Okay, great. So now what I've got, my headings are coming into play, and I'm going to start building my document from here. That is effectively looking like what I want. What I might have is I need to actually do a heading that sits above this. Okay, I could go, I want a new, right click, new heading before or after. I could have done it this way as well. Then it would put the right style in for me. So if I go, I want a new heading after, and that one's going to be company information, for example. And then I go, hang on a second, these ones all need to go underneath it. So I can just go demote it, demote it. I don't have to worry about the styles because now it's doing it all for me. It's demoting everything for me along the way. The great part is I can actually collapse these headings down even. So all these headings are collapsible. Maybe it's in the wrong order. I could take that whole heading and then move it based on that group. So it kind of groups it together, and I can drag whole paragraphs or chapters kind of a book or content around really easily by these collapsible marks. So that means I could drag whole content from here up and down as well. So company cost for spices, I could bring them up or down as needed. easy ways to shift information around. I see a lot of cut and paste and things going wrong because people are trying to cut and paste when you can just be dragging if you've got your style set up correctly. So working with these styles a little more, I'm going to build out my document, insert. Now in here, I'm going to go, I want both a cover page and I'm going to do a table of contents. So I've got cover pages that are pre-built in here that I could just pick and choose from. So I go, look, I like, I can just choose this one here. Okay. So word from the chairman, and that would then be titled. Now my title would be, I'm going to do spices for the business, and I might even add in a picture, for example. And company, who is it? Now all this comes from, by the way, if you're not sure, if I go information, all this comes from my property and data's here. See, it says company. So if I put in on point, okay, got on point. So these are all fields. These fields can be dropped in and adjusted. You'll see now that would flow through right from there throughout the document if I wanted to use a field. Now I'm going to put in, you can see here, collapsible. Now I want to put in my referencing table of contents. In these table of contents, I can just drop it in. So I go, there's my table of contents. I'm going to go Control Enter, give myself a new page, and we'll have a look at some of that in page. Now, the look and feel of this, in terms of my table of contents, it's actually done in Times New Roman. So if I come down here, my document isn't in Times New Roman. It's actually in Century Gothic. So what's happening is the style that comes with that table of contents that's sitting in here has not got the right information against it. I'm going to extend out my styles. I can take that and I can just go, put it over here. So here's my table of contents. What is my heading? Oh, hang on, let's just not turn that into. My table of contents, level 1. So if I want to modify it, I could just go change everything, but I might go modify it. What's going to happen is you'll see here, it's actually not correct. So I'm going to go Century Gothic. And then what's going to happen is as I change all these levels, from here on in, every time I want to update my table of contents, it's going to automatically flow through without me having to worry about it. So I'm just going to adjust it from here. So now if I change the pages and I push pages out, which will happen and I come back and update, it's not going to go back into, sorry, hitting that microphone. It's not going to go back to Times New Roman because this is where people get a little frustrated. They kind of go, hang on, I keep having to change it and I'm moving things around and it's not doing what I want it to do, for example. So that's because your style has not actually been set up correctly to be able to work with it. So these are all the styles that are now included in my document. So from there, let's have a look at some of the other features and functionality. So I've got my table of contents in, I've got my cover page easily. It could now be I want a header and footer. So I can double click into the top of the header. It's automatically going to give me my header and footer. And we've got what's called quick parts. And they are right throughout Microsoft Word. You'll see them everywhere. In text boxes, the cover page we just put in, the table of contents we put in, the headers, the footers, there's so many things that are actually called a building block. And you can create your own, by the way, and save them in as part of your building blocks. So I'm just going to put in a generic header. So I go, look, I like that one, right? So I've got my top. And then I can move down, so I can go down into my footer. I can click in or move around. Now that was a particular style of footer that was chosen. If I have a look, the name of it was Facet. So I might go down and go Facet, and it will drop in whatever my footer is and choose the same one. So now I'm starting to get a bit of a flow through, quite neat and nice. Fairly easy to just build out. Now, my styles, you can go and you can just keep it really simple. And a style and the way that we work, some of the components to make it even easier for you. So say I have, something that I want to do with a particular word. Every time I see the word spices, I want it to be in, a different color for now. Okay, and bold. So I like that. I don't have it in my styles. It's kind of classed as normal. And if I go right click and I go select all of normal, it'll literally choose all of normal. So say if you wanted to make that all the normal a little bit smaller, because it's all maybe 11 or 12, I could go normal, just take it down. My keyboard shortcut to take down very quickly and easily the size of a font, I actually can do my control shift and my left arrow or right arrow to take it up. So if I go control shift left arrow, it would take it up or down. I use that keyboard shortcut an awful lot. You could also do your control and your square brackets. So what it will take it up and down is in smaller increments, whereas the control shift arrow will take it up in these increments. Okay, so it depends on what increments you want it to go up to as to which keyboard shortcut you might actually use. There are lots of really great keyboard shortcuts. Now, with this one where it says spices, if I want to copy and paste this quickly, I've got a keyboard shortcut, Control Shift C. We're often using Control C, Control V to copy and paste. But what you might not realize is for formatting, if you do the Shift key as well, it will copy your formatting again and again. Now I could just choose my format painter. So I could just go click on the painter once and it will use it once again and only once. So I do that. Okay. Format painter, go choose, where are we? Spices, there we go. Spices, that's once and once only. If I double click it, then I can use it again and again and again. Okay, spices. Let's come down here and I can do spices. Oh, hang on, undo. Okay, I'm not selecting it very carefully with my mouse, but you get what I'm sort of talking about. So I can use it again and again. Another way is choose it, Control Shift C, and then wherever I see it, I can go Control Shift V and do it again. With another one that says spices, I should just do a search. Here we go, spices, Control Shift V again. So you can see how I can use it over and over. In the selection, one click allows me to go into a word. We're fairly used to doing that. A double click chooses a word. A triple click chooses the paragraph. If I go over to the left in the gutter, one click chooses a line in a mouse. A double click chooses a paragraph. And a triple click actually chooses all of the document. What if I want to choose a sentence? Because often I'll see everyone's going, okay, that sentence comes all the way down to that full stop and I want to make that italics because it's a quote. An easier way is just hold your control key down. Oh, there it is, the full stop there. Do a left click. Control key and left click. Control key, left click. So now I choose a whole sentence with my control and left click as a keyboard shortcut. So there's lots of easier ways to kind of select things if you need to. And I'll show you one more in a minute when it comes to tables that I particularly love as some of the mouse shortcuts. At the moment, I've got left justification. I could go Control E is center, Control R is right, and Control J is justification. Control L is left. Get to know your keyboard shortcuts. They're up here. We saw them before. Justification, simple ones to remember as you're going along. Go and have a look. And what are the top 10 or the top 50 keyboard shortcuts to be able to help you to work? There's some really good, valuable ones there. So here we go. We got it's starting to look pretty, get some, bit of a nice fun going. We've got our headers, we've got our footers. Let's start to have a look at things like tables and working with tables, for example. Down here, I've got some information that's just dropped in. Now I could go and, quickly say I want this as a table or working with just tabs. what will often happen is running across the top here and around the left-hand side is our ruler. And on the very far left here, there are all the different types of tabs that you can actually use. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to click on them. If you can see, it's probably a tiny little button, top left. At the moment, it's a left tab. Now I've got a center tab. So it looks a bit like a T. Then I have one that's a right tab. I have one that's actually what we class as one that you can use with the full stop on numbers, for example. So if you want to line all your numbers up based on the full stop, you can actually use that particular full stop. Okay. Then we've got, I want to put a line in. So that's what the little dash is, put a line in. You'll see that when we start to use columns, it goes, where does the line go between it? Then we have, if you want to do another indent, top, bottom, and then back to left. Get to know them. There's different ones to play around with. So when we're dealing with tabbing, for example, running across the top, we've got default tabs that run every 5. So if I go tab, you'll see it's now going across automatically by 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Now, if I wanted one that was going based on a full stop, I go, this is where I want a full stop tab. See how it's just automatically lining it up? Just automatically did that. If I choose all of them and go, I want to put a tab there, what's going to happen is now I had 2 tabs there. So I'm going to reduce one down and there were 2 tabs there, reduce one down. So now what I've got is my tabs that are lining to an actual full stop. Tabs are, a valuable thing. Now, I can't see what's going on unless I've got my formatting revealed. It's really hard to know, is there a page break? What type of a page break? What's happening in terms of, is there a lot of space between a header and the next piece of information? So sometimes you might have a real big gap that actually sits in terms of spacing above or below based on the style that is set. If you want to adjust that and say, I want a much bigger space above or below, how to remove the spacing and then do a right click and update your heading and it'll flow right through your document for you. So that spacing, you're often not going to see kind of what's going on unless you've got that formatting revealed. So I might add in, for example, add a space after and it will push it down. So if you're seeing it looking like this, it's usually because you've got a space above or below. So with my tables, something else to have a bit of fun with. And when it comes to the information that we've actually got in here, we can do a right click and we can start to sort of play around with these a little and what we're actually going to do. Now, I want to put this one here. I actually want to put this into a table. Adding text below tables, I sometimes end up another row to the table rather than entering text below the table. It depends on where you've pressed enter or whether you've pressed the tab key. Okay, so that's one of the ones to keep an eye out on. So if you're wanting to do and work with tables and aligning things, usually it comes down to, I'll bring in a table, for example. So I'm going to go convert this to a table. It's got how many columns? It's got 4 because it's doing it based on tabs. You might have commas or you might have something else. Sometimes I'll copy information from online and it's got full stops between everything, or I'll copy it and it's got a space, or it's some kind of what we call a delimiter that sits between it. You can choose how you want to divide out those columns. I'm just going to go OK. So now it's automatically putting it into a table for me. What you may not realize is that in tables, I can also put a formula in. So here I'm going to put product left. That is actually going to times it for me. Do the same thing again. And I could be, copying that down and it would be product left again. Let me just type what I type in, syntax error. Oh, it helps if I don't do a spelling mistake, and then also copy that spelling mistake. Let's try that again. Product left. Same again. The great part about this is once I've got my formula in, I can also do then a sum above, and I don't have to worry and work it out on a calculator because it will actually do it all for me. Should have had less rows on this, shouldn't I, rather than putting them all in. Okay, let me put that in. And then I'm going to just do formula, and it will default sum above, and it's doing it all for me. Thank you very much. What if I wanted to build my own, or maybe even look at, a few other things? We'll come back. At the moment, I'm looking at this, and it's actually not in alphabetical order. On the View tab, we've got what's called our outline mode. Outline mode allows me to take whole paragraphs up and down, so I could drag that down if I wanted to and put it somewhere else. I could drag lists of things up or down. You'll see each line also has a bullet point, and I can drag things up and down. So if I've got a table and saffron, I want to move saffron down, and I want to move parsley to peas. That looks a little bit more like it's in. Go up one more. Now it's in alphabetical order. Close, and I have not messed up my table. I have not had to copy and paste. I've just gone to View, and I've gone to Outline, and I've dragged it up and down inside my table. If you are spending a long time on any of these products like Word or PowerPoint, usually you're doing all the work for Microsoft rather than Microsoft doing the work for you. The features are there. It's what you don't know that's always the challenge. What if, I know, Craig, mind blown, I know, so drop the mic, hang on. So many really cool things in here, and it's all there for you. Hover over, go have a look. Well, now, what else could I do? I've got, say I want to build my own custom table, or I want to have two tables side by side. You can do it. Woohoo. I'm going to come in here. Let's have a look at tables. What I'll often see is, we'll come up here. Actually, I'll come up at the top here. I'm just going to come up here. I want to, I'm just going to put in a bit of space, for example, and have a play around. I want to create a table, but I want to do it myself. There is recordings available for everything. You'll see it online. It's going up on the YouTube channel, so it will be there, and Sarah will tell you a little bit more how to afterwards. So in here, see how it's got draw table? What I'll often do is I often don't start with insert table and choose 3, 4. I actually usually build it all myself. So I might go, hang on, it's moving around a little. I'm going to come down to the bottom. Control end. I'm just going to go down to the end of the document. Control end. Down to the end. Radio. Are we there yet? The mouse is just playing up a little on me in terms of recognizing where I am on the page. Here we go. I'm just going to come down here. Insert table, draw. So I could do this as big or as small as I like. Now the line that I get given is based on my table design. So borders, pens, colors, styles, shading, for example. So I go, I want one column here. One like that, undo, one like that, and I want 3 lines that are about this far apart, for example. Now I could go change all my table design. I could go, I also want to have, now that I've got that, I need to do 2 lines, but I actually don't want it to be a physical border that actually shows. So it's a line that's there. So if I turn off my view grid lines, you'll see there's no physical line, but it's actually 2 cells. So show those grids so that you can physically see what's going on. Yet again, not only that, but see how it's got all your little points inside the table here to tell you. If things aren't aligning, especially when you're inside a table, for example, it's probably because your carriage return, for example, or where it's formatting might be looking all a little wrong. So as you put your information into it, the way that it's actually feeding in is usually all based on the formatting inside that particular cell. That's how things often go wrong. It helps if I don't do so much undoing. Control Z, undo. Control Y, redo. They're up the top here. So Control Z and Control Y is redo. So there are some awesome features that you could also put up the top there to be able to help you in terms of working in this. So F4 is also repeat, if you want to repeat something again and again and again. Some great ones to work with. So now I've built, a custom table and I can play around. What if I decided I've put a column in and it's in the wrong spot? You've got an eraser as well. So I go, I want to erase out that line and I want to have a double line that's going to run along here down the bottom, because I'm going to put some costing in there down the bottom. Little things like that. So I got my structure now going and I can start to put my information in. What you're not going to have as much with this is you're not going to necessarily get your little plus and minuses because I'm building my own. It's not going to give me a plus and minus. For example, like up the top here, I get a plus and minus to go, I want to put in another row, or I want to put in, for example, another column, and it will drop it in. Because we're building our own, it kind of goes, not quite sure where you might want to do this. You can draw them in. Another one is if I'll copy and paste this. I'm just going to copy this, paste in here. If I wanted to, I could even have where it's tabs in there, and I can just go draw a line in the middle of my information, and it would actually divide out based on tabs, for example, to give you a bit of an idea. So it will draw down between it. I should have got the tabbed information instead of the whole paragraph for you. That helps to give you a bit of an idea. So you can divide up information that you might already have in there by just drawing it. Right, let's come back up the top. So that's kind of working with tables. And the style and the look and the feel of the table, by the way, you'll see here, it's actually got the old look and feel because what it's doing is it's doing its table design based on formatting of the font in the table based on your styles. So all that will actually flow through and can cause all sorts of issues. What I'll often do in terms of the kind of a more modern look, I suppose, is I actually have it where my lines are just a very faint dotted grey. I don't have a lot of the borders. I just do a lines running across, and they're the only ones that I would often use, just a dotted grey. It just looks a little bit neater and more modern with a bold heading, for example, to be able to work with. Okay. If we go, and I'm just going to go coming down a little further. How are we going? 10:38. Plenty to still do. I'm going to come up. I'm going to bring a picture in. So with my pictures, actually before that, let's come down here. I'm going to do bullet points. Let's go a little bit more on the formatting on bullet points before I start on pictures. My bullet points up the top here. I've got my standard bullet points. If I do a drop down, for example, there are other bullet points you can play with. I could even go define a new bullet point. Now, when I start to bring bullet points in, don't forget we're still working with our style. So if you get bullet points and they're all becoming a mess, it's because you've created them and you've not used a style or you've not updated your style to reflect that bullet point. So now they're all going to go out of alignment right through your document. And if you want to do an update, it becomes really hard. I could even do a picture. So say I wanted it and I want it to be based on spices. Maybe I want it to look like a little cinnamon. Is that how I'm spelling? I'm not sure if I'm spelling that right at the moment, but anyway. Cinnamon. I want it to look like little cinnamon sticks. I'll choose that one. Insert. So my bullet points are now all going to be cinnamon sticks. Maybe you want them to be the logo for your business or you want them to be whatever the case may be. So now I've got all these little cinnamon sticks. And in here, it's gone list paragraph. I'm just going to go right click, update it. So now whenever I want to do bullet points, it's going to, I can just choose that style for all my bullet points. It's going to go automatically over to whatever the margins are saying in terms of the carriage return for any kind of formatting for that particular paragraph on your indents. It's the indenting that you need to get right. That is what's going to shape the look and feel of this. So if you want it to be larger or smaller, it is in here that you're going to start working with it. And I might go right click, update, all flows through. Okay. So I don't have to sit there and try and fix every line or do it. Just the once, flow it through. All about the styles, all about the themes. If I want to change my theme now, design, and I start to go, I want it to look like, let's come up to the top so you can see it move around a little bit more. So if I start to hover over this now, you'll see how, because I've got my headings and my styles, I can pick and choose all really cool types of themes and see what it looks like, because it's all flowing from the styles. Okay, coming back to those themes. Now let's have a play with pictures, the fun stuff. So I'm going to bring in a picture. Insert picture from, I'll just bring it from this device. I could choose from online. So say I want to bring in any one of these, maybe a basil leaf, for example. Oh, great big picture. That's not going to help me very much. Number one, what I'm going to do is I've got my layout options. They're all up here on my picture formatting. Where I see people get really frustrated with pictures is they just haven't worked out how to wrap text around it. They don't know how to kind of put it in or bring it back or forward. My absolute favorite one is to actually have it where it sits here, coming over. I might have it in front of the text or tight. So I go tight. Then I'm going to go remove the background because I don't actually want all the white background. Hang on a second. I'm going to get some marks and areas to keep. I'm going to just get that little tip back there and that little tip there. So I got my basic editing features that come with Word. So here we go, tight, wrapping. I can say how big now I want it. If I need it to be all the same size, then up the top here, I would make sure that in my size, every picture was, 5 by 5, for example, or whatever that looks like for you. You can just do it, drag it down and make it a little smaller. So here we go. I got my text wrapping. There we go, text wrapping. Now I'm going to take this. Let's go down just a little bit. Now, there are a few things here that I don't like about this. My text is over to the left. I want it to be to the right. My text is over here and I don't want it to be there. So in my wrapping of my text, I'm going to edit the wrap points. I'm going to go up and I'm going to go down. Nice. Thank you very much. Okay. The other things are playing around with this picture a little bit. I'm just going to take it up, 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 up. I like that. Maybe I don't want it to be looking like that. I want it to be the blue of this particular document, for example. So I could go color corrections. Let me just go, actually, let's go artistic effects. I want it to be like a hand-drawn picture. And I want it to be in a blue color, a little bit like my document. So now I've got my, and I could put even a little, what it is underneath with a picture figure. Details, for example. Probably blue's not going to work though for this, keeping it black and white, because really, if I'm thinking about it, it's a green, so we might choose something that's a little bit more green as an accent. Okay. Now, where I'll next see people kind of get a little frustrated is because they're entering to push a paragraph down, enter. And then when they move to a new page because they're putting more information in, they got this big whole gap and they didn't want it there because the picture's above and the spacing's below. Up on layout, you can put in text wrapping breaks. So I just go text wrap and it pushes it down for me. Okay. So now any diagram I've got, I can actually push things around a diagram. I can say what I want to keep up or down rather than putting a lot of enter marks in. That way, if it moves to another page, for example, or you shift a picture or whatever that looks like, you don't then have it go all messy if you move this up or down. it will stay no matter what in terms of the picture. So get that formatting right, and everything will start to flow on from there. Good also with text boxes. You might want to drop a text box in, for example. Let's flow down. Here we go. I'll get rid of these spaces. Now, I'm going to copy and paste some information from an Excel spreadsheet. Let's go get it. I'm going to open up an Excel spreadsheet. Now, this was in terms of the spices for the company and how everyone was actually going. So I'm going to go, I want to copy and paste, Control-C, copy from Excel over into Word. So I'm going to go paste. Now, what happens is I'll often see, to just make sure I've got it, Control-C, Control-V, paste in. It's off the page. I see information brought over from Excel, and I could literally do a whole lesson and a whole day just on copy and paste across Office, believe me. Now, one of the things is I'll often will see people try and choose different ones. Do you want it to be linking back to the document, for example, or use the styles from where it's come from? The main thing I see where people get frustrated, let me choose it. Now, up on the table layout, it's off the page. So people will start going, I need to drag those columns over, and they're trying to drag each individual column, or they're doing you can do a double click on the lines between it and it will go fit it automatically, kind of fit it automatically with a double click. So you can do that, or go auto fit to window or contents, and it will automatically bring it all into the window for you without you dragging all the different columns along. Another one. So many, I see it happen so often. I go, did you know it's actually there already? You can just choose that option to drop down. It's like, do you know how many hours I've wasted on dragging columns around and trying to make everything fit? Now, you might still want to drag it around because you go, look, those sales, I don't want it to be that narrow across there. So you could then start to choose those columns, for example, and say, what you want the width of them to actually be. So you could then start to adjust it around and play with it as you wish to move it. Okay, they're also up the top here. So rather than choosing the lines, see each line is actually built right up there on your ribbon for you. So if you want to make it easy for yourself, maybe you adjust it up here rather than trying to select that little itty piddly line that makes it really difficult to drag things around on the actual physical page. So you might move it out, and then you might choose it again, auto fit to window. Yeah, see, and it'll bring it all back in again. Because if it's right off the page, it's really hard to get. Another thing that can be really hard to get is if you put a ton of pictures, for example, and you're layering them behind. So say I put that behind the picture, accidentally put it behind the text. So say I go, I want it sit behind the text. And now I can't get it. It's hard to get or find. Okay. You've got a selection pane that allows you to choose things that are on your page, or if it's in the way, you can even turn it on or off to be able to see it. Okay. So that allows me to be able to go choose the picture, formatting, wrapping text, and I'll bring it in front, behind, top, through, but tight is always my favorite. I do particularly like having it tight. And I can bring it in even tighter. Remember, you just edit the points as well, by the way. But that selection pane becomes really valuable right across the whole of Office, especially if you're in PowerPoint and you're dealing with a lot of pictures and you're trying to layer. That's when you want to have your selection pane on. It is there for you to be able to work with. Let me go down a little further now. So we've worked with tables, we're cutting and pasting over from Excel and having a play around. Some of the other features. So I have a list. I've got a nice big long list here, and I want that to be in columns. Here we go. Let's go and play with our columns. So on the layout tabs is where we've got columns. I'll go 3. Let's go. Just go 3. And I go, let's have a look. I actually want that to be much smaller. It's still way too big. Columns, more columns. I'm going to go to 5 columns, and I want there to be a little line in between it. There's a little tick box there. And I'm going to go, okay, there's my 5 columns with lines, maybe go 4 because cardamom. Oh, hang on. Let me go back. I'm going to play with that a little more because the spacing, I'm just going to adjust the spacing between it a little bit more. And now it fits beautifully. Thank you very much. If I want to push black seed to the next, for example, break column. So you can go, I want to break it. So you can start to break columns over. You can go, I want to break the column from here as well. So break column. And I want to break the column from here, break column, rather than trying to go enter at the bottom of try and push it over to the next column. And then it all gets a bit of a mess. You've got lots of different types of breaks there to play with. Okay. So that is all available for you inside columns and working with those types of breaks. Columns and breaks. You'll see there are next page breaks, for example, continuous breaks. A continuous break is really good where you want to take some information and maybe have it in a really narrow little paragraph, and then have one that's really wide and then narrow again and then wide and then narrow again. For example, you want to do continuous breaks, something that's going to change above and below. Let's have a quick look at working with our different types of auto parts. Now, quick parts. Remember I said there's quick parts everywhere. Cover pages, for example, headers and footers, text boxes. I've got a disclaimer here. I can create my own quick part and I'm going to save it in. So I go, I've got a disclaimer that I need to have all the time to go across all my different documents. I'm going to save it into my quick parts. Just have it in a general. You can create your own. Maybe you want it to be somewhere, or you can put it in your headers, your footers, your table of contents. Maybe you've got a customized watermark you want to have in, or you can build your own. And I'm going to go insert just that content, or you can go paragraphs, put a whole page, whatever. Go, okay. So now in my quick parts, here's a disclaimer that I can use again and again and again and again, because it's now built into my quick parts. Doesn't matter what it is, and you can use this right across the whole of the Office suite, by the way, to be able to play with. One of my other core features, getting close to the end now. How are we going, everyone? I know I've gone through plenty to try and remember. It's about the art of what you could possibly do. I love dictation. So when I go and press on dictate, it's powered by the Microsoft speech services. So for things like if you want to do a full stop, you need to say period rather than full stop. So if I turn that on, it's now listening, and I can go put in a period. Then go, scroll down a little bit. Paragraph, new paragraph. And it'll return. Period. New line. Then we're going to go and put in some new information, comma. Do you like that? Often I will be wanting to think out what I want to say rather than sitting there and typing, because it will actually, put in what I need. You'll note it didn't put in my, stumbling of speech with an ah. Okay, let me turn that off. So my dictation, and there are some really great features as well online to be able to help and support you. Your, commenting and the way that you work, so many awesome features in here. Things like, you've got your different add-ins. Trust this add-in, Wikipedia. You could go and find something about spices and drop pictures or information in. So if I go and put in, for example, parsley, and I wanted to get some information from Wiki, I could go, show this article, show some information, and I could start to then go, I want to, copy and paste. Now I'm going back. Let's go back a bit. I could go copy information from Wiki and paste it in, and it will bring over my information. Or see, I've got a little plus button. So much easier if I go plus and then it says what your source is. So use the features that are actually there, like the little plus button. You can look up pictures. There's lots of little great add-ins to be able to work with. Your lines, your returns, in your drawing. If you're going to do drawing or you're going to bring in any kind of infographics or you're kind of insert shapes, for example, I would highly recommend start with a drawing canvas. Okay, this drawing canvas then allows me to be able to start drawing and move things around really easily in terms of my connectors, because what's going to happen is if it's not inside a drawing canvas, it's going to be hard to be able to play with and keep it organized and structured. So now I can take that whole drawing canvas and move it where I want it to go. Same with, you'll see when you put smart art in or any kind of art object, generally what it's going to do is it's going to put it automatically in a canvas. But if you're going to draw, put it in a canvas. That's going to make life much easier rather than enters, because you can't grab that sort of stuff. When I'm going to finish off a document, one of the things I'd want to do is check for any issues, because then I can go, do I have commenting in here that could, cause any issues, for example? Do I want to remove any of my personal information around this document, especially if you're sending it on a public site and sending it live? So go do a check. You've also got check for accessibility, because there's a ton of stuff in here I can guarantee you that's not going to be great for accessibility. And make sure that your document is, in the right kind of a format for accessibility. Once you're done, you can turn off those paragraph marks to make it a little bit easier for you. There are certainly plenty of things in here to work your way through. Have a look at the design. Have a look at the things that you've got on your different orientations and marking and indenting. The tabs that you can do, putting the tabs on your ribbon, how it spaces. They're all little things that you'll be able to pick up over time. You do have some great sort of editor type stuff for spelling and double checking, tracking of changes and turning it on, understanding, who's doing what and when. The different types of views that you're going to actually see as you work through. Some great views in here, including your outline mode. Go and have a play around with it. Being able to bring this information and splitting it, especially if you've got big, long documents, so that you can see the top of the document and you can see the bottom of the document, for example. So once you're done, you'd come back up here, go update my table, entire, and you'll see it actually now stays with all the same formatting. Get to know your styles. Update your styles, keep them all in the right theme to be able to work your way through. And don't forget, at any point, you can come up the top and type in what you want to look for. Things like give me my keyboard shortcuts, and Microsoft will actually help you in getting to know all your keyboard shortcuts across Word. If there's any feature, you can type up here and it will then help you out. Now, there are some really cool keyboard shortcuts to be able to play around with. Choose maybe one or two for the week to get used to. You're going to need to do it, more than a couple of times till you get the hang of it, and then move to the next one. And another one that you think, oh, that'd be really good to know, for example. Moving around. The one thing that I had said I'd come back in a table to show you a keyboard shortcut is, say I want to just choose those words there, anise seeds. I'm just going to hold down my Alt key with my mouse and go Control-C, copy, and Control-V, paste. I have just copied that information, given it some space. There it is. So all I did was just copied the information from there and moved it up down. I might give it some more room. Let's try that again. Copy. Oh, no, I need the whole word. Maybe all just the numbers, for example. I'm going to give this a bit more space so it's not playing. There we go. I chose some more. Move it down like that. So I can actually just copy the information I want out of a table, out of tabs, off a paragraph, anywhere. Hold your Alt key down as you do a left click and drag your mouse and just choose what you want. That's my last absolute favorite keyboard shortcut that I work on. Okay, Dal, have we got any other questions that you might want me to answer? We've got a minute here. The keyboard. Okay, yeah, the link to the group is there. Great. What have we got? Aligning things, two tables like different in size. I can't teach the snap. Yes, yeah, so, look, there's so many tips. Hopefully what I've shown you will help you in terms of aligning those columns and getting them to the right, using up the top here to be able to work with it. And you can join tables together as well, by the way. You just have to literally delete and bring them together, and they will a table to a table, and they will actually join together. And you can split them apart as well, by the way, too. A table. Easy to split tables. If you go in, layout, and you can just go split the table. And then I just press delete, and it brings it back together again. So if they're not quite lining up, it's usually you just start to work with your heights and your widths and your distribution of your columns and rows. Those sorts of things will all help you to be able to bring your tables together. Okay. Any other questions, anyone? Look, as I said, it was not a step-by-step. It was a bit of a guide. Now, some of the resources, I have provided a link up at the very beginning to some really great features and functionalities that you're going to find online. I've got here links in that presentation to where you're going to find things like keyboard shortcuts, information around accessibility, the quick start guides that are there that Microsoft have, and the cheat sheets. Some of the free training custom guide have some really great video free training and Word documents. There's also the Microsoft Word training that are available. If you want to connect with me at any point, feel free. Online, Twitter, LinkedIn. We've got then the user group. It's on Meetup. You can always just look up adoption on Meetup and you'll be able to find the user group there. If anyone wants to ask a question, feel free. You can always come off mute. If there's something I can help you with, if you go, I can't get this, I'll show you. Grab me while I'm here.
Great. Thank you so much, Kirsty. We will give everyone a minute if they'd like to ask a question. Everyone will see I've just entered into that chat a link to our survey. So if you have a minute to fill out that survey, that would be great. And also our Meetup page, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, which you've registered through today for this event. And also the YouTube channel, which we discussed. This recording will be uploaded to the YouTube channel within the next 24 to 48 hours. So all the cool tips you've learned from today, which I know I will definitely be implementing myself, some stuff into my everyday Word documents. You'll be able to go back and reference that if you wanted to see them over again. So no questions have come through, so I think we'll end there for today. So thank you again so much, Kirsty. As I said, some really great tips that I can even use myself, and I'm sure everyone that joined in today will be able to use. And hopefully we'll have you back next time and also in person very soon.
Yes, not too much longer. If anyone has a question you'd prefer to do that off the recording, I'm more than happy to answer off the recording as well. Thanks for coming, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the what's possible and you just don't know what you don't know.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining.
You're welcome, Jessica. Great to see you here.
Have a great rest of your afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you joined us from today. And we'll see you next time for another Microsoft Reactor live stream event.
Thanks, Ewell.